Powers Ultimate Families, Lafia, Wassalamualaikum, Assalamualaikum. Just getting a couple things situated here. For those of you who knew I was going live, I was going to go live at 10, but do what we can when we can. I'm also sorry for the technicalities too. We're supposed to be going live from a couple of different other places, but we had a couple of technical difficulties with the site today, and the live streaming encoder. No big problem, but just a couple situations that we had. But like I said, we have to do what we can when we can, and I wanted to get this information out here because I said that I would. So we want to speak about a couple different things here. I had a couple different questions sent in, and I would like individuals to keep any questions as far as if anyone else coming to the live stream, because we're also on a podcasting live stream. Let's see if we can get the StreamYard going here. But I would like to try to keep the questions in one form, right? I'm just going to go ahead and start into it. I'm sure anyone will see this at later dates. Lafayette Christian. We got people coming into the other live stream, so we can go ahead and start here. A couple people on this one came in and came out. But like I said, for anybody who do throw questions, and for the questions that I asked for, I was kind of asking individuals to be direct, because I didn't want to mix, right? And we'll talk about mixing and matching a lot in these cultures. We'll talk about mixing and matching a lot. But, as my elder said, it's kind of like oil and water. As far as our practices go, right? As far as like Ifa and Palo, when we're involved in a lot of different traditions and cultures, but we can just take like Ifa and Palo. Ifa and Palo is like water and oil, need to be completely separated. They're not the same practice. When we speak about these African traditional religions, we have the same end goal, we have the same root system as far as having the same desires of what we are trying to achieve in life, but these are completely separate practices. This is why you see me trying to keep the conversation separate. So, I wanted the questions to be either directed towards Ifa and Pala, but I know I'm not going to get that since I'm so diverse in different traditions. And as the questions that already came in that we got here, people were just kind of mentioning matching. So we're just going to try to get into it. So it's just good to keep in mind about the oil and water, correct? These practices are separate. You don't need to intertwine these practices. There's no mention matching. What's for Palo is for Palo. What's for Ifa, what's for, whether it's Santeria, Lagumi, Gamble, etc. Those are for those cultures. Each and every one of these cultures have its own root system, just like each and every tree out in nature has its own root system. So it needs its own gratification. It needs its own respect. It needs its own honor and its own practicing system as far as how to carry these traditions in the right way. So there's no mixing Ifa and Palo. This is why you hear me talk about that different complications as far as my personal experiences moving up in Palo Mayombe, being a Babalao, right? So, and that's a different conversation. And many of these different conversations, you can always hit me up and ask me in private. Before we really get into these things, I would like to say, just like my Tata Shengo Ngumi, that and in my Yaya Elemi, is that whatever we have to say is not the only thing to say. I do not claim to have the ultimate tongue. So what is for me, what is for Mama Nanzo, my Ile, what my elders gave me, could possibly be not what your elders gave you, maybe not what your Mananzo do. But for the root system and foundation, all of these cultures need to be practiced the correct way, in the correct manner, as far as traditions and carrying traditions on. That's why they're called traditions. No mixing and matching, making your own rule system. So I say that to say that I'm not going back and forth with individuals who's coming from Santeria, who has their own, or the Kumi, or any of those other practices that I'm not involved with. All of my teachings come from directly from my elders, And I take those, I study on those, and I apply them to my life. And as I apply them to my life and learn from it, I'm able to teach from it. So, like I say, if you have any specific questions, keep them courteous as far as the chats go. But any private different things, I'm willing to answer any questions. I'm willing to give you all information to my elders as far as if any of this information is bothering yourself. So just moving on here. We got a couple of different questions coming in. Right. So they said, can we explain about God and the devil? And I'm going to go through a couple of different sectors when we start talking about this, right? So when we speak about God, we have to understand that, and I don't want to mix the cultures up, so I'm not exactly sure, exactly where they're asking from. But when we speak about God in Ifa, we believe in Oramare, right? We believe in the supreme divine energy, this supreme divine power who have blessed all of us with the essence and the vibration to live this as human experience, who has blessed Ifa or Rumala with the Urus and the wisdom knowledge of divination to teach us how to live this human experience that he blessed us with in the correct manner. So we do believe in some type of quote unquote God. And I see somebody's asking me about specifically Palo, and we will get to that. Yes, I don't want to mix and match and different things like that. So, as far as Ifa go and different things like that, they do believe in a higher density. They do believe in a higher power source, a higher divinity, right? And this is Ore Mare. This is if any type of being that you can quote unquote call a god, this would be that. Now, the Orishas, the Luluas, the Mbungos, the Ngizis, these are not gods. These are energy sources. These are beings. These are spirits. These are forces of nature. These are forces of the human mind and the human spirit, and conditions of the human mind and human spirit. Correct? This is why we can find the Orishas found inside of the human body. So these are energy and forces, more of a medium system to that high divinity system, on a lower quote unquote hierarchy system. Correct? So when we start talking about even as we start going further, right? So we start talking about how some people say that Orunmila is this higher divinity of this experience because he was the one who gave us this higher essence. So we see a Korra and different divinities that he was able to create for us and different things like that. But that's a whole different other conversation, is whether Ifa, whether Orunmila is a god, because to some practices he is. So that's another thing. But as far as the devil go, right, it's kind of the same thing for anyone who knows my teachings by now. I always speak about those missionaries who came into Africa and they was asking, who is your devil? And at this point in time in Yorubaland and Kebulan in general, we didn't have no type of understanding of what a devil is. We do not believe in this red horn secret entity creeping around to try to take us under. We must understand that we must take responsibility for the levels that we are. So anything that you are going through on a lower vibration ends up being a doing of your own. So if there is a devil or a lower entity or a so-called evil, this is one that you have manifested. This is one that you have created. So we must keep those type of things in mind. Now, as far as evil and lower vibrations, as far as being villainous or just like evil energy in general, we must understand that that exists. If good exists, if purity exists, we must understand that taintinism exists. We must understand that lower vibrations exist. But this is based on the practitioner, correct? Because the next question that came in was about, to be exact, what about, is these practices evil, and do you use evil inside of these practices? And let me take the time to say, no matter if it's Ifa, Palomayombi, Palomanti, Juma, Santeria, Lukumi, it's all about the priest, right? It's all about the priestess. It's all about the practitioner. It's all about the beholder, right? So if your heart is rooted in that, then that's what your powers or your mystic being essence is going to produce, correct? This is going back to what I said about anything that you are going through is all based off your manifestations, your mental state of life, your ordery, correct? So we must keep this in mind that if there is a evil entity or evil force that's being inflicted on our life, it's from a state of our own doing. And this is the beauty of these practices or religions or whatever you want to call them, is they make you take responsibility for your um, outcome, right? There's no sky daddy, there's no someone to blame under the ground. This is your own doing based on your spiritual health, your spiritual advantage, or your spiritual evolution, and what you choose to spend your time on evolving in these practices. So that's something to keep in mind, as far as when we're dealing with a god or a devil or good or evil, that is all in the beholder, right? So now that's a long conversation, but just not to linger, I kind of hope I summed it up for you a little bit. And I see Christian is asking here about the different branches, and I guess we'll speak about the different branches in a minute, because there's many different branches, and I'm assuming that you're speaking about Palamayombe, Christian. I don't want to branch off. Like I said, I don't want to mix and match too much, but I will answer your question. But we have another good question here that I want to kind of go into, which is women in the practice, right? So women in these African traditional religions, and I see this a lot. I'm not going to go into too much like sexualism or genderism too much. I don't want to speak too much about like homosexuality and different things like that, but I will touch upon it because I see it's kind of a rounded question that was sent in here. But what about the women in practice, correct? I want to take you back. To my Baba Mi Arebe, or Rabba. Baba Mi talks about a Padaki that speaks about Oshun, correct? So at a certain point in time, I'm speaking about Ifa. So at a certain point in time, or when these practices was given to us when we started this entity, at a certain point in time, women was not allowed in the ceremonies, women was not allowed in the meetings, women was not allowed inside the Ile, the temples, correct? So the first entity that we got, and we find these stories dealing with, is Shango and Oshun. Oshun was the first woman in these practices, in this existence, in this spiritual state, correct? So Oshun being the first woman, Oshun was not allowed into the practices. She was not allowed in the temples. She was not allowed into the meetings. She was not allowed to participate in the different ceremonies and different things like that, right? It was all masculine based. So this is why I say that nowadays we see the masculinity energy got out of hand. This is why the wars, the senseless killings, the rapes, the sexuality is off balance. The sacred exchange of energy is discorded and tainted. Is because of different things like this, of individuals who found these body keys and ran with it, right? But at a certain point in time, Oshun was not allowed. So Oremare, he comes to Shango and blesses the temple, gives them these different blessings and different things like that. Like I say, at this point in time, the women was not allowed in. So Omare, during these different blessings, he tell these people what to do. He tell these deities, Shango and the rest of them, what to do. Right. So at this point in time, sickness fall in the village. Crops are docile. Nothing is growing. Nothing is fertile. There's too hot days. It's too cold days. Right. Just complete off balance in the universe. So Shango goes back to Oromare and he asks, what's going on? This and that, this and that. Oromare said, what about Oshun? Where's Oshun at? And he said, no, we're not letting her in the temple. Women are not allowed this and that, this and that. It's just our customs. And Omare said, that's the problem. Go back and undo the wrong that you did. So Shango go talk to Oshun, and Oshun say, will I be able to be in the ceremonies? Will I be able to be in the meetings? Will I be able to be a practitioner of this practice? And Shango say, yeah, you know what? Yeah, yes, maybe this is the thing we missing. Yes, and he invites her in. And this is when you see the blooming, the blossoming. This is when you see the crops growing. This is when you see the sickness go away, the dark clouds leave over the village, and they're able to step into the correct order and correct their ewebele. Correct? Now, this story gets more deep. It's a lot more details to it, but this is the first time we see this complication come up. Like I say, individuals now, closer to nowadays, we talking about millenniums ago, so closer to nowadays, over the last couple of centuries, masculine, overloaded men with so-called toxic masculinity, as what we said in the general generation today, has ran with that padaki and have put traditions and different things behind that. But we must understand, right, that that is a strike to humanity. That is a decreasing in humanity. These practices is about building ewepele, building good character, being community based, find me the non-Jones, connecting the inner bridge between me and you, with different ideologies such as women can't do this or women can't do that, women can't be a part of it, women can't have a power structure in it. This is not serving that purpose. So my thing always be, because like I say, individuals in different mananzos or iles might have a different understanding, or their elders taught them something else. But the elders that I find follow the most exact ancient terms of this, and we are about building the most ancient traditions, or keeping the most ancient traditions, and living by the main principles of these practices. We must understand that as us in the human form has always been going through evolution, we're living in a time with more resources to be able to talk to elders, to be able to read on a higher velocity. We're more bilingual, so we have more access to different texts. So we must keep this in mind, that we're about evolution here. So your elders who had lack of resources 100 years ago, if they did not consciously and continuously build on that information and build up their good karmic debt and build up their iwepele, and was trying to live this based off the principles at the root foundation, then it became tainted. It became a condition of society other than a condition of the spirit, because we always tried to alter it based on the things we was going through. Correct. So this was the importance of picking a good godfather and godmother who don't have a societal mind, or being able to be interpreted or meshed over by what goes on, different things that they read. They has to have a continuous studying and researching mindset and spirit. If you close the door thinking I've been in this 10 years, 20 years, and you close the door thinking that I've made it to Tata Nganga or whatever level of power, or Oluwelo, or whatever power of deity or hierarchy you want to reach to, and you think that you have learned enough, I'm telling you now that that's just not it. So this, all of these arguments talking about, oh, I have the golden rule, I have the golden teachings. It's not none of those systems. So we need to keep that in mind. So going back to the initial question, can women be head of the Mananzo and Ile? And what about women in the practice? We must understand, and I always talk about the strength of not only African souled women and melanated women, but women in general, correct? Women in general, I believe in the Eve and Adam, and not Adam and Eve. I believe Eve was the first deity, if you just ask me, but that's a different conversation. But in the practices, understand that the women is very, very responsible, very, very important, correct? When it comes to the vocals of divinity, when it comes to the sound therapy, when it comes to the being a strong director of certain ceremonies and certain rituals, women plays a very, very important role here, correct? If those chants is not being ushered correctly by a woman's vocals, a lot of this falls dormant, correct? The woman's vocals is very, very responsible. So can a woman be head of a Ile? Can a woman be head of a Mananzo? I see Christian put in, what about a Babalo? Can a woman be a Babalao? Yes. Many different arguments have gone on. Now, I want to bring in the understanding of American Santeriaism, Cuban Santeriaism. Always argue with my elders. See, my elders is about a Sheshe, where I come from in Ifa. My Ifa is Okoran, so it comes from Nigeria, and also Odo, another Ile Odo that's from Australia, and that's part of a Sheshe through the threads of that. So I say this to say that, my elders from Nigeria always talk about these arguments they have from not even elders, just practitioners from American Santeria practices and different Cuban Santeria practices, arguing with us about empowering our women in these cultures. Now, understand that there are women babaleos. There are women who possess the powers to work with the certain tools of divinity, correct? We speak about how either the Oshun or Yimaya was spying on Orunmila when he was practicing, and they ended up learning the different divination tools like that. So we must keep in that there are certain things, correct? So yes, a woman babalao or a woman head priestess or yaya nganga, or whatever you want to say, whatever you want to call her, wherever you are, can definitely run their own Ile Mananzo. Some of the strongest ones I know is women. Now, there are certain practices where you need male babalaos, you need male priests inside to do certain things. So we're talking about sacrificing. Only male priests should do sacrificing in many of the different practices that I ran to. If yours is different, let us know. But just for educational purpose, but for many different reasons, men is the only ones who can do sacrifices, correct? They can do different things like the cleansings is very important as far as the women. The power of herbs. So if I'm going to gather herbs, now I can do it myself because I was a shaman before all of this, and I was blessed into Hussein, and I have a large connection with these plants, and I'm a botanical scientist, so I understand what plants can do what, and which ones are sister plants, which ones are sweet, which ones are sour. So I have a large collective of herbs myself. But if I'm going to collect the herbs, I know a lot of other Iles and Mananzos is the same. If I'm going to get a collection of herbs, I want the women in my Ile and my priest house or my temple, etc., to collect these herbs. Now there are a cleansing, which they sometimes they call kambisa, sometimes they call it a couple of different things, but kambisa and different things is the cleansings that women are responsible for. Now they can be the head of Mananzos, they can be full directors. Like I say, there are certain ceremonies as far as like sacrifices and different things during certain ceremonies and rituals, but you have full power to direct what goes on in your temple, in your Ile, in your Mananzo house, and during these ceremonies and rituals that you are the head over. So, that gets a little sticky there because a lot of people think a lot of different other things, but we must keep in mind that speak about Palo for a small moment. You're going through a rebirthing, correct? So if you go through these rebirthing initiations, and a woman presence is not there, a high priestess is not there, Yaya Nganga, Mambo. We talk about solo Mambos, solo practitioner madams, correct? Who has always had high divinity without a male practitioner. So I want to keep that in mind. But we must keep in mind that it's divine feminine energy that is controlling these birthing systems, the womb being present, the estrogen being present, and it's a lot of other secrets as far as why the woman should be there. That's a very important. We spoke about the community spirit being very, very intact in this. So Christian says, what about no, as far as my information go, that's one of those things women cannot scratch new initiates. So pines, nuegos, etc. There is a initiation that Yaya and Ganga can, as far as Palo goes, because I know you asked from a level of Palo. The Yaya and Ganga can initiate a certain level of initiations that they can participate in if they are a Yaya and Ganga to a certain hierarchy of power, as far as my understanding go. So there's many different branches as far as Palo Christian, Palo Marjumba, Palo Manti, Palo Mayombi, Palo Kimbisa, and a couple different ones that I've run into, but I'm just not exactly as educated at this moment about those ones. But as far as I am familiar, that now, like I say, I don't claim to have the ultimate tongue, but as far as my elders teaching me, Brajumba is the less colonized version of ATR as far as the Palo community go, the Palo branches go. They're some of the last ones to pick up any Catholicism or Christianism at all, any of those practices at all. I mean, even to the cross, right? And Kimbisa is on the opposite end of that. You see a lot of Catholicism, you see a lot of Christianity beliefs, you see a lot of intertwined with that. Now, people have their beliefs about Christianity and Catholicism and intertwining European belief systems or enslaving oppressive belief system into these practices, and they're fully granted to those beliefs and opinions. I do want to take a minute to say that, like I say, if you follow me by now, you understand that I'll take things back to slavery. correct? When we were going through the most tribulationist time that we can record, other than like normal wars of our own, of facing high oppression, when we had to use these practices to truly liberate ourselves, or truly revolutionary, or have revolutionized our communities, our families, and our bloodlines and our spirits. So there was many different times where I was told I was told a story one time that these slaves was in the hut, and we can picture this. We can kind of always use our subconscious with this. The slaves was in the hut, the slaves was in the house, and they were doing their work, right? So they're casting spells, they were doing rituals and cleansings, they're doing their work. And after 300 years, the slave owners really didn't care. They knew they were getting benefits of it. Some of them even wanted to learn it and come deeper into it. That's why we see a lot of Europeans inside of these cultures nowadays that was birthed into it and passed down. And we try to run their history and come at them crazy, and they got 80 years into the tradition. It's because of different things, like they actually wanted the benefits of it more than what Christianity could give them back then. But that's a whole different story. But the slave owners was coming out the house. They knew that these slaves on the plantation was doing this work, different things like that. And they had a lookout. And the lookout, gave the call, gave the knock, and he gave the call. And he put two sticks together. Now, this goes to a large story, and I'm kind of breezing through it. I'm sure, I mean all respect and honor, but I'm sure I'm damaging it by running through it fast. But he put two sticks together. Now, this was the importance of palo and the power of sticks. One story of it, and many different stories of the power of twigs and sticks for us. But he put two sticks together and came out worshiping Jesus, came out, catching the Holy Ghost and the spiritual gospels of Christianity, praying Jesus. Oh, thank you, Jesus. Oh, worshiping Jesus. And they was kind of confused about the way he was doing it, but since he was claiming Jesus, they let him pass with it. So this is how the slave owners was about to come burn them. They was about to come lynch them. They was about to kill them Africans that was doing that voodoo on those plantations. So once they seen that symbol in that moment had saved them, based off their foundation being a root system, even though they were speaking their language, even though he was moving in his normal ways and doing his spiritual system, he used the symbol to survive, right? So that is something we need to keep in mind as far as when we see the cross and different things like that. But yes, Kambisa is one of the ones who adopted Catholicism and Christianity higher than anyone else, other than a couple Santeria and the Kumi branches, but we'll get to that. So yes, like I said, Brajuma is one of the more revolutionized, and as far as under that, I believe it's Palamayombi. But yeah, so there's a lot of different branches, and like I say, so I don't want to get too deep into it because there's a lot of other ones that I'm just not educated as far to speak about, or I feel like I shouldn't. I don't want to disrespect them in any way. Like I said, I don't have the ultimate tongue. But to go back and touch up on, I see a couple more questions about women in Palo, to be exact. And like I said, I don't want to mix water and oil too much, so I won't say too much, especially about Palo, because I like to keep that a little bit secretive until individuals is ready to move deeper into it. But we must keep in mind that Yagon and Yadodi and Makaluna, right? These are women entities. Yagon, Yaya Ngon, or Madam Ngon. These are the head of the Egons. These are the head of the spirits in the underworld, correct? So the feminine energy has a stronger connection to reach to them and to talk to them, and et cetera, like that, correct? So your Yolidi or Yolodi is the woman entity in general, as far as Orishas, as far as spirits, as far as different entities like that, correct? Makaluna, they say believe is the head of all. This is why sometimes you see these Orishas or different things being mixed and matched with genders and different things like that. Me being like, it's taking it like to astrology as far as Virgos having masculine and feminine energy. All of us was women until the chromosome split. the woman entity and the woman energy is what possesses in this world. The only thing that reproduces is feminine chromosomes, feminine genes, feminine organisms. So that's something to keep in mind, that they are very important. Now, there are certain rules and practices, based off of energy, and just differences, right? So as far as like striking matches, men strike outward, women strike inward. It's just how the energy works, right? It's just how we follow the nature, how we follow universe, correct? And we think about sexuality. Women gets penetrated, men penetrate, striking out, striking in. It's all about the same entity. It's all about the same energy. So that's something to keep in mind as well. So is there a hierarchy? That's a good question as well. Not exactly sure. If you can be a little bit more specific, if you are in the chats on the live stream, see, we got a couple people over there. So I don't want to get into the normal bullshit, man. I got a lot of elders who I consider elders because they live this by heart and they're actually trying to be good, but they got a lot of extra baggage. And that's, we all come in with baggage. We all come in with human experiences and damage from society. But if you're not shedding that off, it's not exactly good to be in a man of power. So I'm not going to get, too shady about any different things, but I don't want to start getting into those conversations because there's a lot of hierarchy here to be talked about. A lot of people like to use power. A lot of people are power hungry and power greedy. So I don't want to get into who's the head and who's different things like that. If you're part of my Ile, you're part of the Mananzo, you're part of Adire, around Masin, then you can go ahead and privately ask me these questions, and we can speak about how the hierarchy works in our Ile here all the way to Nigeria, as far as our branches go. But I will answer the question as far as the deities, right? And I'll speak about Palo because it's kind of easy. So we got zombies, right? We got Nzambi, as we say in Palo. This is the God. This is the higher divinity that I spoke about. This is the one who blesses us immensely. This is the one who we can give the excuse of existence for, correct? We got Mbungos, right? Which is the god of the Nganga, right? So if you are familiar with what the Nganga is, as far as Palo go, the spiritual cauldron, the Mbungo is the god of the Nganga. It's the creator, it's the director, it's the steerer, it's the driver of the Nganga, the power, the battery source of the Nganga, of how we correctly work these workings, correct? So up the Nganga, you got the Mfumbe. The Mfumbe is a governing spirit, kind of like the Mbungo, but very, very different, correct? So you get what we call the Nkisi, which is very, very major. I'm not going to get into too many details and too many different things as far as this live chat for sake of time, because I didn't want to linger too long. I kind of want to just get some quick information to you guys. But the Nkisi, very, very important, very, very major. This is what lives inside of sacred items, whether it's the different sacred items that you use to work with, or different sacred items to protect, or different sacred items to consecrate, or so-called conceal or commune or command these spirits, correct? In Dundun, which is Indoki and Gida, like I said, for many different reasons. I think I'm getting too ahead of myself based off the individuals who are asking these questions, and based off of just concealing secrets and different things like that. So we must understand that there is a middle source here, right? So between Mbungos and Mfumbes, there is a deity, there is a force that you create yourself. Now, one of my elders, Baba We, said that Orishas is being born every day. We name 401, but this world is infinite. Things always birth and shed and transition to other dimensions without a trace as well. So we must keep in mind that there is a deity and an energy that you create for yourself. It probably has always been there, but your spirituality ends up getting to cultivate it. We can speak about different, and maybe I will in my next live, speak about different ways to preserve these spirits and to command and like actually build a true divine relationship through divination, the true divination, right? The proper divination, whether it's the Chamalangos, whether it's the Kenyans, Obeles, Dilagoons, etc., to truly understand when you receive these odus, for example, when you receive this information back, how to properly build a relationship with them. So that's, something very, very important as well. Someone asked me to speak about the sun and the moon. I want to speak about the sun when I was mentioning God, because I'm not exactly saying the sun is God, but many different practices, we believe that it is a higher energy source that can produce, that can create, that vibrates on a higher frequency than we can as humans. So it has to be a higher entity or deity that we can title as being a god, so to speak, right? So the sun gives us all. It births, it blooms, it nurtures, it protects, it heals, it also destroys, correct? So it's a very, very high powerful source as far as like the magical or mystical powers go. When we talk about the moon, it's the complete opposite as far as what we're trying to do. So, right. So as far as like building good character and different things like that. So if you're trying to birth things, advance, grow, manifest, etc., this is the reasons why sun gazing is so important. Sunbathing is so important. The sun will activate you. The sun activates the third eye, not the moon. The sun activates the chakras, not the moon. So that's something to keep in mind. The moon is a lower frequency. It's a higher deity than humans, so we can tap into the frequency. For games, that gets what you consider a game is, but it is a lower entity and lower vibration, correct? It produces melatonin, so this is why you get sluggish. This is why you get less motivated. This is why you want to sleep. Sleep is going to recharge you, so it's not exactly a negative thing. Positive and negative, good and bad is kind of a gray area when we start talking about these different things. But this is ones you should do dark work with. Manifestations can work, all different abundant love spells. So prosperity, abundance, love, fertility. You can use the synchronicity of the energy that the moon is having with it. But things like full moons, nah. The moon is, look at the moon as a sponge. And it kind of almost looks like a sponge. Look at the moon as like a sponge. It soaks up frequencies. It soaks up solar energy. The energy that the sun produces and shed off, the sun absorbs. So it comes, this is why I say it's a lower frequency. It's a secondary frequency. This is why you should do dark work with it, shadow work with it, correct? Cast darker spells, negative work, right? But you have to understand the seasons. You have to understand the intuition. You have to understand the direct methods of how to conduct with these, correct? Full moons are good for dark work. It's just that simple. Go for a waning moon or waxing moon where the energy is more growing or building or even decreasing as in releasing. You have to understand this on a more metaphoric level to be able to build a relationship. This is why people don't have the correct amount of imagination to have the correct amount of faith to even get to the levels to believe. We believe. We have hope is under faith, but knowledge is what draws belief, which is above faith. Faith is you're doing all this work and you have a strong feeling that it's going to work. Belief is you have built up so much knowledge, so much information, you're doing it correctly that you don't have any doubts in your heart. If you have an ounce of doubt in your heart, you have an ounce of doubt in your work. You have an ounce of doubt in the spells. You have an ounce of doubt in the nganga. Correct? So this is something to keep in mind as far as like when we're dealing with the moon. Now, in Palo, in a couple different cultures, Ngonda is what they call the moon. It can be Ngonda Impua, which is a new moon. Ngonda Fuluka, which is a full moon. Ngonda Mina, which is a crescent moon. or a waxing moon. And in Gonda, you misa, which is a waning moon, excuse me. So understanding these different names, and these different names have different spiritual identities to them, synchronized to the moon. So I say this to say that everything has multiple layers. Just like you coming into this culture, coming into this practice, why it's not going to be so fast? Because we have to peel back the layers. We have to deal with this trauma. We have to deal with that trauma. We have to deal with this vice and that vice. This negative self-talk. This positive self-talk that needs balance and equilibrium. Not to get too arrogant, not to get too braggadocious. So it's different layers of everything, different levels of everything that we must keep in mind. Correct? And a lot of people, they don't understand because they're in this using these as a weapon. They're not building iwepele. You must build iwepele. Like, this is the reasons why these cultures and practices and traditions, they got started in the first place. Yes, to revolutionize and liberate the mind, to stop oppression that we're facing and wrongdoing casted upon our life as a human experience, for sure. But to make sure every day, no matter the complication, no matter the tribulation, that you are taking this at full granted, and that if you are blessed to breathe this air today, to see the sun and the moon today, to be grateful and try to be the best person that you can be, no matter what anyone does to you. I'm not saying turn the other cheek. We don't believe in that exactly. But to be good at heart and good at mind, even in the midst of war, tribulations, and turmoil. So a lot of people get confused in this. And the reason why I say that is because we have misteachings and misguiding and misconceptions. And this is why we're starting these processes, correct? So I'm not going to go too long. Like I said, I don't want to draw too long. So yes, the igun in the palo stick is different, Christian. The igun and the palo stick is two different entities, two different spirits, two different items, two different ceremonies to receive both of those, as far as my understanding. Remember that you have multiple initiations coming into this practice, multiple different levels. So no, they're not the same. So go to the mentor program. And I know a lot of you 40 minutes in to get to the mentor program, and I apologize. But the mentor program is a program that we have developed for individuals who have always been dealing with the normal complications that you would deal with coming into initiation. Education, order and destiny, desire, intentions, finances, location, time, and patience, and just building the authentic relationship, not only with your baba, your yaya, your tata, your godfather, your godmother, but with the ancestors before the Orishas, the ancestors before the Mbungos or the Luas, right? We must build the correct relationship with the culture, with the tradition, and then with the ancestors. Then you can move on to being able to control higher deities that that is here for all of us, but just demand a different relationship to be addressed, correct? So this is a system that ushers you in. This is a system that blesses you in. We walk with you thoroughly. There's no jumping hurdles. There's no cheat codes. There's no escaping what you have to go through and what path you have to walk. This is a way that you can get mentorship. This is a way you can actually sit down with an individual who is practicing consecutively and consistently, and not one of those closed door cult policies to where it's a power hungry, greedy system here or a money driven system here. And we're actually worrying about you getting to where you need to go based off your order, your destiny, and your life path, correct? So there's many different initiations that we have as far as these mentor programs come. At the end of it all, if you complete the mentor program, you will be ready for initiation. You will receive a couple different initiations through that, but you won't be fully initiated into IFA. Like I said, we're blessed, we're blessed to have a couple different practices in a collided practice here. So we have an Ile and Mananzo. We practice Palo, Asheshe, Ifa. There's even a couple of different, 21 divination, Osane, a couple of different individuals who practice or pursuing or received a couple of different things through a couple of different initiations based on the elders that we have. And we're so diverse, right? So we have elders from Pennsylvania, elders from Nigeria, elders from Algeria and Libya, elders from Florida, and elders from Tobago, and elders in Arizona. So we say that to say that all of us have been walking this tribal Voodoo line, right? We have all been working this Okudaran, this Madura tradition for over publicly, letting it be known for 200 years. But it's a little bit older than that, about 700 years. So I say that to say there's many different initiations that we participate in, but at the end of this, you'll be ready to be initiated. And you receive a couple different initiations. You go through a couple different processes, or we offer a couple different things based on you. So there's just a couple different steps as far as the mentor program, but you will receive the hand of Ifa. You will receive Ozane. So we also have Ikofa, which is Ikofa Asifa. This is where you receive the hand of Orumila. This is where you receive the hand of Ifa, and you build a divine connection with Ifa. Correct. Now we also have a couple of different ones. So we have Ori, which is destiny initiations, where we find out your true life path, find out exactly where you need to go, exactly what you need to be participating in, exactly what you need to do to clear up the paths to walk in your true calling. We have lineage initiations as well. This is ancestral, not only ancestral readings, but ancestral initiations, to where we help you build authentic communication with the ancestors, correct? Now, you also can receive the Ogun knife, which is a separate initiation. So that is a different detail or a different option that you will have to ask once you come into the mentor program that you want to receive the Ogun knife. Many different places, they receive the warriors and different things like that. But like I say, this is another thing that you have to come in and ask for us to offer that to you. Just like the AJ, the AJ initiation or the J ceremony of wealth. This is to clear our paths for us finances, careers, business, entrepreneurship, any type of generational wealth or financial freedom, passive income, anything along those lines of being financially free and financially abundant. Remember that money is called currency for a reason. The currency is a vibration. We have Nana Bukuni or Nana Bukin. This is a initiation that we have for our priestess, our yayas and our tatas, specifically our ayalos, which if you want to receive the highest level of the becoming a priestess, you must go through the Nana Bukin. The Nana Bukin will prepare you how to be a perfect godmother, how to tend to the grandchildren the correct way. You have already went through a lot of other initiations to be seasoned to either run your own Ile or Mananzo or just temple in general. So now that mirrored, we have the calabash and different things like that for men who wants to reach the highest priest level and different things like that and open up their own Iles and different things. So this, as far as the mentor program, of course, we got the Ifa scope, correct? This Ifa scope is a weekly, sometimes daily divination system. So we're constantly working with what's going on or what you're receiving through this human experience. We have the just a couple different rituals in the middle. We spoke about the shedding ritual. The shedding ritual is a cleansing ritual. This is stripping off our karmic debt, bad mojos, bad just energy in general off of you. So that is something that extensively included inside of this to clear the path, to open the roads, and that goes into Isu. That comes into Elegua and Papa Legba ceremonies and initiations that we have where you receive Isu. So he can properly open the roads for you so you can have a proper understanding of not only your order and your destiny, and you have your connection built with Rumala, but you understand how to walk in your divine path and have your roads and those gates, those doors opened up for you, and you understand how to give correct ebos and offerings and moods and etc. So this mentor program works with you very, very extensively, very, very close. This is how individuals come into our apprenticeship. This is how individuals come into the tribe of Obu and become Kanians. This is how individuals come into all of these practices through an ushering system. Now, this system, these mentor programs, these mentor systems used to be started after initiation because sometimes the financial incentive is gone. So we must keep in mind that you must be desirable, right? This must be desirable. You must be focused and sure about not only your ordering, your destiny, which we help you with, but that you are serious about these practices, because these practices will test you. Not only initiation will test your mind, body, and spirit, but as you go through. I see individuals 10 years in this still struggling because they're not following the system the correct way. They don't, and they have guidance, they have elders, they have padrinos. It doesn't matter about who you have in your life, who's seasoned, or this elder who's been going on for 90 years, etc. It's not about that. It's about spirit and mind. You cannot jump hoops. You can't cheat, but you can have a control and a dominancy system for yourself. So that's something to highly keep in mind. So I don't want to linger too more. The questions had kind of slightened up, and we're reaching the hour mark here, and I don't want to kind of linger too long. And I know individuals will probably watch this a lot later than now. So if there is any questions that I didn't cover, you can please leave them in the comment section. We will get back to them. You can always email us at kanian700@gmail.com or visit us at kwofikhan.com, or hit any of the platforms and directly message us. I do want to say that you must respect not only this culture, this tradition, the practices, the secrecy, the Mananzos and Iles that you're not part of, the branches that you're not part of, everyone else's spiritual existence and spiritual level. Everyone is not as conscious as you. Everyone hasn't read the books you read. So you must stay humble in these practices. You must keep your ewe pele clean. You must keep that karmic debt on your side. But also self-care. If you're not building up yourself, these practices will become a burden. I always say, for your blessings, you must have balance or they become burdens. So we must keep these different things in mind to stay balanced. Remember, a smile is a curve that can get a lot of things straight. Walking around, upset mug, negative energy, lower vibration energy will only dwell your spiritual abilities, will only calcify your pineal gland and force you to go further into sleep and give these spirits a reason not to connect with you. Now, whether you're wrong or whether you're right, if it's truly geared in heart, they will help you out. They see, these Orishas, these Anubis, these Mbungus, they know what's your heart rooted. They know where you're rooted at. But if you are not properly taking responsibility and actually trying to evolve thoroughly and on a genuine level, you're going to have complications in any system. Don't come into this thinking that you left Christianity because they wasn't solving your problems and thinking this is going to solve your problems if you're not willing to put in the work. So that's something that's very, very important about self-motivation, self-determination, self-accountability, and self-adaptability, correct? So like I say, everything I have to say is not the only thing to say. I do not claim to have the ultimate tongue. I do not claim to be the highest priest, or just be even one of the top wise elders in this practice. I know nothing, and I'm studying extensively. And I'm researching extensively. The thing about me and a lot of other these tatas or yayas or any of these people of power in these practices who are blessed with these opportunities is that they're just geared the wrong way. Like I say, it's all about the practitioner. Money hungry, greedy hungry, power hungry. you know, these are entities of the spirit that must be corrected, and we can see individuals are not using their practice to correct themselves in the correct way. So this is just something to keep in mind. You know, like I said, I'm not going to linger. If you have any questions, the email is there. But everyone stay blessed out there. Wassalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Alafia alaikum.